Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Bloom. I am so happy to be back with you all as we launch our second season. This break from you all has been so tough because I have truly missed like meaningful conversations about life and how to grow and develop ourselves. And I couldn't be happier to start off this second season with our next guest and Raven Bonniwell, and she's going to talk about how to unveil your superpower. The reason why I really wanted to have this discussion is because I know that there are a lot of us who are walking around who do not realize our strength. And the purpose of Bloom is for us to all get together and cultivate and uplift each other so we can all recognize our strength. And I do not know a better person than our next guest, who's a leadership coach, who's going to dive in to tell us how to bring out our inner best self to display and to give to those around us as our gift. Your strength is your gift to the world. So I want to go ahead and bring Raven out and introduce her to you all. And I'm so excited for you all to hear the discussion. Hi, Raven.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here and be having this conversation with you today.
Me too. Me too. I really am. I was looking at your website and I really want to read a message from your website that I was telling you that really resonated with me. And I know that's going to resonate with a lot of people. So if you go to Raven's website, you'll read at the top portion. It says, "You're filled with passion for a cause you believe in. You feel it in your soul. It brings you joy, anger, elation, and tears all at once. You know that this is your calling. You realize that you are the change you want to see in the world. You've got the job. You feel that tingling in your body. This is it. You're in a position that you can make a difference. All of your biggest dreams are swirling in your head, ready to come to life. And that's when life happens. You realize that there are 1,000 other things that you have to do that are in the way of making the difference that you want. Red tape, lack of funding, lack of resources, burnout, overwhelm, underwhelm. It's the feeling you're running on a treadmill. Your goal is always just a little bit out of reach and you're getting tired. You worry that you're becoming disillusioned with the idea that you can actually change the world. Wow. I mean, if that doesn't sum it up for all of us on how we feel, that initial emotion when we feel like we're about to embark on a new journey, whatever your spiritual belief is, you feel like you're supposed to be doing something else, something greater, and then life happens. So, Raven, again, thank you for being here. Can you go ahead and tell everyone a little bit more about what you do?
Sure, yeah. So I am a leadership coach, and some people, the coaching industry is getting bigger and bigger, and so you could say life coach, leadership coach, relationship coach, even. But what I do in a nutshell is I work with people to discover their strengths and discover what gets in the way, and really how they get in their own way is kind of the spoiler, right? Creating blocks and looking at how past experiences and everything like that shape the way that we think about moving forward. And what I do is I work with clients to really remove those blocks, to recognize that it's all just story that we're telling ourselves, and
Mm,
look at how we can really empower ourselves, empower our strengths, and choose how we see things moving forward. So I work with, what you just read. I work with a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs to take that leap, to jump into all of those passion projects, everything that they really love in the world, and be able to have it all at once, right? To be able to be a mom and a leader, and and a woman, and and travel and live this life, right? Whatever it is, and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more and more and more, whatever is fulfilling to that person, right? and
mhm.
and really have the whole thing without pitting anything against each other.
Absolutely. I mean, that. I think a lot of us can agree that is the dream, that is the goal, that is what we all want. And I know we have some guests checking in. Deep Life Newton, hello, Debbie. Hi, Shannon. Thank you all for being with us. Let us know where you're signing in from. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. Raven, I want to ask you another question. We talk about, finding your superpower. What do you actually mean by that?
Yeah. So I think that everybody has certain, you know how when babies are born, I like to start it this way. You know how when babies are
Mm-hmm.
born, you can kind of see that personality and that essence of who they are
Yeah.
from nothing, from a tiny baby. They can't talk to you. They can't really, communicate. They have this essence, and you can look at a baby and go, "Gosh, that baby is just joy and curiosity and power," or whatever it is. Those things stay with us, right? It's sort of who we're born to be and those qualities that we're born with. And a lot of times when we are, as we you know grow up and things happen to us in life, and we shape ourselves into adults, we come up with these not so great parts about ourselves, right? Oh yeah, but I'm disorganized, or I'm very timid or quiet or shy or things like that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
these stories tend to hide that essence, right? The thing that we were born with. And so when I talk about finding your superpower, I'm talking about tapping into who you were born to be. Those
Mm-hmm.
qualities that were present when you entered this world, and showing up with those qualities more and more often. And sometimes those qualities are reflected to us, and we get into conversations of, oh, but if you only knew, what was going on up here, and if you only knew the
Mm-hmm.
real me. And what I'm interested in exploring with people is, what if this was the real you? What if these superpowers were the real you, rather than all of the story, all of the the I think about Clark Kent and putting on the glasses,
Yes,
right? What
I
if
totally
what if
get it.
you were Superman or Wonder Woman, rather than the Clark Kent that you're pretending to be out in the world?
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you mentioned about like we are born with certain gifts because that's another thing that really resonates with me. And you all let me know if it resonates with you as well, because I honestly truly believe that we are all like perfectly designed as is. And then, like you said, sometimes people will come in your life and they'll try to like chip away at your gifts or chip away at who you are. But we are so amazing. And the fact that we're all still able to be here despite the pandemic, let's just take a moment to realize that we are still on an assignment.
Yes.
There is still so much more for us to do. So I totally agree with everything you're saying. And I'm loving this conversation, Raven.
Thanks.
So, one of the things that I know I've experienced, especially as a woman, a lot of our audience are women.
Mhm.
You come in with this big, bold personality. You're taking up space, and you walk into a room, and you demand a certain attention or a certain output, which is perfectly fine. But then you get labeled as the proverbial bitch in the room syndrome that a lot of women have been labeled with. How can we be confident in who we are and without being undermined by that label?
Hmm. Yeah. I love this question. I really do, because I spent a lot of time in my leadership growth trying not to be that bitch in the room, because
Mm-hmm.
I was so afraid that that's how people were going to see me. And so the first thing I can say is that it takes practice. It takes practice. And
Mm-hmm.
really, a lot of the time, and not always, unfortunately, but a lot of the time, it's us that are labeling ourselves as that, right? We're looking to not be too powerful, not be a bitch, not be
Yeah.
mean. And we apply that title to ourselves, or that term to ourselves. Again, not always, that does happen, but
Yeah.
a lot of times that conversation is in our head, and we're trying
Yeah.
to not be something. And when you spend a lot of time not being something, it's a question of who you are going to be, right? How do you show up when you're just trying not to be that powerful person that's labeled in that way? um,
Mhm.
but so in one case, it takes practice to show up in your power and say, you know what, this is just me. This is me
Mhm.
in all of my power, in all of my glory. And if people say something about it, we can have a conversation, right? And it's
Yes.
all, and that's the ownership of it, right? It's not a, hey, I'm going to go attack somebody, or I'm waiting for an attack. It's actually being
Mhm.
powerful and confident enough in what you're bringing, and practiced enough at what you're bringing, that when you get somebody that says something negative about it, or or something that you could construe, that kind of attacks that, like, ooh, I'm scared that that is what I'm doing,
Yes.
then you can actually clean it up, or have the conversation powerfully too. That we're not often skilled at having. We're not often skilled at having a conversation that cleans up something, or
Mhm.
without being totally defensive, or confrontational. And I do really believe that one can do that, especially when we're coming from a place of love and heart. And the other thing that I want to just posit, I guess, for your everybody's consideration, is that power doesn't mean unkind or
Right.
uncompassionate. I think a lot of times we, for whatever it's worth, like we've been in this male dominated, and really white male dominated world for quite some time now. And there's a leadership style that is sort of, is looked at as the default there, right? And so, and a lot of times it's kind of cartoonish, but it's that, like, oh, the boss, and he's kind of mean, and and everything like that. And we subconsciously try to fit into that. But it's like, gosh,
Yes.
the female style, the feminine style of leadership could be very, very different, right?
Yes.
And so we can bring compassion and power and vulnerability and rigor all together, and leadership becoming from a heart-centric place. And that doesn't mean
Mm.
bitch in the room, right?
Right.
So something to
I
consider.
Yeah, that's a lot to consider. That I honestly really love that. It's exhausting. I know I've been in that stage in my life too, where you walk into a room and you want to be what everyone else expects you to be, and that is so not kind to yourself, and it is absolutely exhausting. So I love the idea of living our life truthfully in our own strength, and just being exactly who we are. And like you said, being a leader doesn't mean, or being direct doesn't mean you're unkind. You're just you're just direct. There's no other way around it. It would be accepted for, other genders. We need to give ourselves permission to ask for what we want,
Mhm.
and be open to receiving it as well. And so, another question I want to ask you, a lot of us that are here, we're mothers. I know you are as well. Business owners, or you're an employee and a business owner on the side. How can women strike a balance and not feel overwhelmed, so we can tackle the things or obtain the things and the objectives that we have set for ourselves?
Yeah. Oh, we have so much going on. And again, sometimes I look at this historically of, gosh, what historically the role of women was, right? And so we managed the house, and we had the kids, and, so that over there. And now that we're able to be so much more and really step into our power, we still hold that thing of, we're still managing the house, and the kids and all of that, the laundry and the cooking and, traditional roles. And we're business owners and we're dedicated and we're hard workers. And so we're doing all of it at one time, and we get into that mindset of, gosh, I have to hold everything and have to do it
Mhm.
well too. And
Mhm.
so you're right, getting overwhelmed happens all the time, right? And I've got a couple things about this. One is that it's really, really important to take care and take time for ourselves,
Yes.
whatever that means to you. If you're not a bubble bath kind of person, don't go take a bubble bath. I don't mean self care in that way, but really look at what it is that sources you, and go for that, right? Like actually make time for that. You know, when in the days of yore, over a year ago, when we used to fly, they would say, put your own oxygen mask on first before helping
Mm.
other people. And I think about that a lot with all of the things that we're up to in life, all the things that I'm up to and my clients are up to. There is something about, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first. And that's really hard when you've got kids, especially. But I think that it's also difficult, for any leaders out there that are managing a team, and gosh, you really love your team. You have to take care of yourself, whatever that means to you, and get your basic needs met. The second,
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, no,
oh,
go ahead. Go ahead. I want to hear this.
yeah, the second thing that I would posit for you to consider, and again, take it or leave it. But if it's powerful for you, consider that overwhelm is a choice. It isn't
Mm.
something that just happens. We actually get into patterns that then create that feeling of overwhelm. And what I sometimes work with clients on is, why are you choosing this? Why are you choosing to get to an overwhelmed place? What are you avoiding? What does it get you out of if you're overwhelmed? What conversations do you not have to have? Or how does getting to that point of overwhelm suddenly mean that you get your needs met?
Mm.
So that's something to consider too. And sometimes that idea is difficult to swallow, especially when you're like, no, but I have so many things going on. And so it may not be for everyone right now, but it could be a place to look. Hmm, I'm overwhelmed, so I don't have to what?
That's a big one. You're overwhelmed. I mean, that just hit me. You're overwhelmed, and then that suddenly means that you get your needs met. Wow. Oh my goodness. That
Yeah,
is so true.
yeah.
Yeah,
How?
because I mean, think about all the times we have a meltdown
Yeah.
and an outburst, and then everyone comes in at that moment to try to rescue us.
Mhm.
But
And
like
you
you
get
said,
to go, take a nap or rest or, whatever it is, right?
yes, exactly, and then you get what you want. Yeah. So what you're saying is we need to prioritize ourselves, put ourselves at the front end, and understand ourselves enough to know exactly what we need,
Mhm.
distribute the weight accordingly, and then proceed. Right? Is that the
Yes.
healthier way to do it? Yeah. I love that. I love that. That makes so much sense, but maybe we not may not all be doing it, but we need to. One of my favorite books that I read recently is by Sheryl Sandberg. I don't know if you all are familiar with that book with her. She's the COO of Facebook, and Lean In is what she wrote. Was the book title of the book that she wrote? And in the book, she talks about if you're married or you have a partner, like making them a real partner. Don't just expect or act as if you're the only one that needs to go up to the school or to daycare visit. Like do the things, have the communication with them to make sure that you are able to take care of the things that you want to take care of as well. So I love this, and conversations like that. I think that people should have daily, weekly. So how do we partner with women who are in the same mindset to help empower us? How do we cultivate a circle of women who are going to help us achieve our goals, and things like that? I feel like we're doing that here on Bloom, but how do we do that in everyday life, when
Yeah.
you're at work or friendships and things like that? What does that look like?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I love what you're doing here on Bloom because it is that, and you're modeling this for others, right? How do you actually create this? And what I would say is, not everybody has to have, a group like this or interviews like this, but what we can do is really do our own internal work, one,
Mm-hmm.
and support other people in doing that internal work too, right? Because what's true for me and how I operate isn't necessarily what's true for you and how you operate, or any of the viewers today. So we need to really understand how we individually tick, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And supporting that self exploration in others. So what I like to encourage my clients and encourage my teams to do is to find those support networks, find those people that really, one, that love them, right? The easy ones, family, good friends, that sort of thing, that will be there and be resources when you know when you're feeling low, when you need some acknowledgement, things like that. But also find the people that will push you, that will challenge you, and not from a a jab in your side or something, but from a place of, hey, you said that this is what you were going to do, and you said that this is what you stand for. And here's what I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that, you're letting yourself off the hook, or I notice that you're, choosing overwhelm. You're overwhelmed more than not. How can we how can we support each other to have you not be overwhelmed, and have you actually, take steps in the direction of what you said you wanted. And I think that, again, it's probably a little bit different for everybody, but it's also going to require some boldness, right? Going back to that initial conversation of what is your superpower and how do you own it, because that's also how you're going to call others forth. When
Mm-hmm.
your superpower and they see it, it's much easier for people to, to do their own work and to look at theirs. um the other little the I was going to say it's a trick that I like, but it's not really a trick. It's an opportunity to really acknowledge the people in your life too, right? We can see other people's superpowers a lot easier than we can see our own a lot of the times.
Ooh,
Yeah.
true.
So acknowledge your friends, acknowledge your coworkers, acknowledge your spouses or your family. Call it out of them. Tell them what you see about them that makes them powerful, and encourage them to explore that too.
Mm. That's such a great idea, and I know that that requires a great deal of vulnerability. But I'll share from my personal experience. I was in a place where I felt lost career wise, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I sent a text message to my friends, and I was like, what do you see in me? What do you know to come to me for? And getting that feedback somehow felt a little awkward to me because I was just like, wow, you look at me like this, and it's so strange, but I say that because, like you said, a lot of times people see us in a bigger light than we see ourselves.
Yes.
So, we have to get to a place, like you're saying, to see ourselves in the image that we were created in, which is greatness. And we have to do the work daily. And, like you said, cultivating your circle is important. Your friends should be like your cheerleaders. The people that you communicate with should be your cheerleaders. So, I just absolutely love that. So let's go back to talking about your superpower. I know we talked a great deal about what your superpower is, What are the consequences, do you believe, of not invoking your superpower?
You know, uh, what I've noticed a lot lately, even in myself, because I'm doing this work too, and I think that it's constant work in progress, right? To get to that place. And what I've found is that when I am not invoking my superpower, when I am what I say is in my stuff, right,
Hmm.
in my overwhelm and in my disempowering conversations that run through my head, it's like, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's exhausting. And I think that
Yeah,
that's really the consequence of it, of not stepping into that. It is, I get these stories in my head that say it's going to be hard to be powerful in this conversation, or it's going to be hard. This is the hard conversation I'm going to have with my colleague or something like that. And I avoid it and I avoid it and I avoid it. And that part, the avoiding part, is actually the hardest. It's
yeah,
much easier. And I think, we've all had some taste of this in our lives and had some sort of experience with this, that when you finally do the thing that you've been putting
yeah,
off, it's like, oh, well, that was much easier than I expected. But we put
exactly.
ourselves through the ringer beforehand, and I think that that's really what the consequence is that we exhaust ourselves and we put a lot of stress and a lot of weight on us when we don't have to.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And another thing that comes to mind too is, I know a lot of us, Tammy, Shannon, Debbie, I mean, we're all parents. Um, and you are too, and I am too. And so, it's important, I think, also for our children to see us as our highest, best self.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not someone, it's hard. And that's one of the things that I struggled with initially. It's like when I had Lauren, I was like, how could I tell her that she can accomplish anything she wants to? How can I tell her she can live the life of her dreams if mommy's afraid to? Because children, they'll listen to what we say, but they're going to do and be who we are,
Yeah.
especially as women. When you have little girls, they're going to try to emulate us. So I just wanted to give my best version of myself to her as a gift in hopes that she'll give that gift to herself and to her family if she chooses to have so.
Absolutely.
Um, so, can you tell me what are some tools that we can use to sharpen ourselves to get to this best place?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, going back to the conversation about overwhelm and really well-being, one of the things that I like to give clients to work on well-being is actually I have them just make a list of
Mm-hmm.
what are 5 to 10 things every day, even, I mean, every day, that are daily activities that support your well-being that you're not already reliable to do, right? We're something that's most of us are reliable to brush our teeth every day, right? That's for our well.
Yes.
But one of the things that I had on my well-being list for a while was drinking enough water. For
Mm.
and I'm much more reliable for it now, but for a long time it was I would forget. I mean, I would just drink something
I
else,
do the
right?
same thing.
Yeah, and so I feel better personally when I drink water, and so that was something that I put on my list. So that's one of the things that I'd start with is we talked about getting clear on what your needs are, and just a simple sitting down for 10 minutes and making a list of, okay, well, if I had the day to just do whatever I wanted, what would source me? Is it,
Mm.
eating for half an hour? Is it the bubble bath? Is it taking a walk? You think about things like mental, physical, emotional well-being, having a belly laugh every day. Think about,
Yes.
what are those activities for you? And I would actually sit down and write it out. So anybody that's watching this, I challenge you, take 10 minutes sometime today and just write down your 5 to 10 things that you could do for yourself
Yeah.
every day. So that's one thing that I would give as a tool. The other thing, I mean, I can't stress enough the importance of self exploration. You know, obviously, it's what I do as a career is support people in self exploration, right? I hold up a mirror to my clients and
Mm.
say, okay, well, here's what I'm going to reflect to you, right? I don't necessarily give advice in sessions, right?
Mm.
I'm not an expert on your life, but you are. So I'm there as a mirror to reflect. And, you know, coaching is a great way to do some self exploratory work, right? Actually, having somebody reflect to you who you're being about this or, you know, where you're stopping. But other things are out there, right? We listen to TED Talks and engage
Yes.
in videos like this and actually conversations among other people. There are tons of books out there, just like the Lean In, like you were talking about. Brene Brown is writing
Yes.
a lot on this, right? So consume what you can, and then the tip when you're consuming this sort of stuff is actually take it on for you, whatever you got from it, create an exercise out of it, right? Don't just passively consume. Look at, how am I doing this? Or what could I put in place right now that would support me with this?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's fantastic advice. Have you actually met someone recently or even in the past that you feel like embodied this lifestyle that you have admired other than yourself because you were actually doing the work every day?
Yeah, you know, I'm very lucky to be surrounded with a lot of people that are doing this work. You know, in addition to having my own private practice as a leadership coach, I work with a company called Accomplishment Coaching that trains coaches and leaders as well. So I'm so just so floored to be around people that are living this every day. But you know, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this. I guess a couple weeks ago about looking at who out in the world, you know, that people kind of know, and you know, I feel like, you know, for instance, Kamala Harris came up for me immediately. I was like, oh, she's living this. And the thing is that I don't actually know if she is, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that even Kamala Harris, who I look at and I'm like, wow, such a powerful woman, you know,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. But I imagine she's got stuff too, right? And I don't
Uh-huh.
know how it shows up for her, but you know, but she still has blocks that she's working through, you know, mentally as well, in one way or the other. So
Hmm.
I think about people like that and go, yeah, even one of the most powerful women that I can think of is very likely, and you know, I haven't met her. If anybody knows Kamala Harris and wants to introduce her to me, please. I'm
Of course.
but you know, I'm
You're in the
sure
right
she's
city to
the,
meet her, though.
I know, I'm right here in DC. Go knock on the door, but
Right.
yeah, but I'm sure that she still has blocks too. You know, and the same is true thinking about Michelle Obama's becoming as well. You know, thinking about, you know, what she goes through, and um, you know, people that I consider superhero women
Yeah.
in the real world, you know, still have the same stuff that we're going through as just people here.
Right. Yeah, we're totally all the same, and I love that you mentioned the women that you know admire because I mean I admire, of course, the same women, but for me, you know, I always called Oprah my godmother. I call her that to this day. And she had a vision tour about a year and a half ago, and I told myself if she was anywhere near me, I told myself this 10 years ago. I don't care how much the ticket costs. I am going there. And I went there and I had front row seats and it was amazing. And I was just right up on her. And the biggest lesson, well, the two biggest lessons that I got was, you know, we are in control and we have all the resources that we already need to be who we need to be. And then the second thing, she was so vulnerable in talking about her pain from her experience with her mother, not feeling loved and appreciated. And it goes back to exactly what you were saying. We all have our stuff. Here I am sitting in front of Oprah Winfrey. She's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, and she's crying real tears of pain. So, like you said, we all have our stuff. It's about, are we being honest with ourselves and how are we managing it in a way where we can still be productive? And that's why I love, the work that you do, because you're actually enabling people to empower themselves and do the work and strengthen their mind and their business as well. So is there, when we talk about superpower, is there a limit on the amount of strength that we have, or is it like an endless well that can be drawn on?
Oh, that's a great question, because for some people it seems like there's a limit. And I think that, I've done a lot of work with people around capacity and what we have capacity for. And the analogy that I like to give is, you are not a plant in a pot. You are not actually contained. But a lot of us live life as if we are, as if
Mm.
there is a limit to how big we can grow, that there is a limit to what we can handle. And so, if you think about the plant analogy, if you want to go with that, right? Think about that you are a plant in the ground, and your roots can spread
Mm.
as far as you want, but
I love that.
you have to water, you have to be watered, you have to be fed, you need the sunshine. So, yeah, there's a limit if you're not going to water yourself, right? If you're not going to take care of you as that plant in the ground. But otherwise, if you are giving yourself all of those nutrients that you need, your roots can grow and grow and grow
Hmm.
and grow and grow. So if you consider that that is the same with your power, right? It is limitless as to what you
Hmm.
can do from a mindset of possibility.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is so true. Like you said, you give yourself what you need to grow. And I don't know, is it just me or everyone else? Let me know if you've had that experience too. But I think a lot of time as women, even from our youth, we're always taught on how we need to give to other people, give to our children, and give to our husbands, give to our siblings, and put ourselves last on the priority list. And then I think we get to a point where we have more responsibility, and then we crash.
Yeah.
We have those meltdowns and breakdowns because we just can't handle it all because who's pouring into us?
Right.
And so, I love this idea, this mind shift that we're talking about, that you're bringing about in this conversation about like giving yourself the nutrients that you need first, whether you have to wake up early and go to the gym or, whatever that looks like for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you could be your best self. So, what if like our inner perception doesn't align with our outer perception? How do we take daily steps, each and every day to piece ourselves back together so we can really see ourselves as what we're supposed to look like in the mirror that other people see us as?
Yeah. Great question. Because often it doesn't, right? We see ourselves as overwhelmed, exhausted, disorganized, or whatever else, the not good enough, right? Those disempowering stories. And other people
Mm-hmm.
see us as strong or joyful, or or wise, brilliant, right? Um, a couple things that I would give for that. One, as cheesy as it sounds, look in the mirror and
Mm-hmm.
and give yourself some positive affirmations, right? Look in the mirror and say, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am brilliant, right? And I know it sounds cheesy, and probably somebody has some negative connotations to this, but I can tell you it does work. And it's going to be so uncomfortable, probably the first, maybe two, that you do this. But you will start listening to yourself after a
Mhm.
while, and it will not be as uncomfortable as it is to start. A lot of times when we're looking at expanding ourselves and our view of ourselves, it is going to be uncomfortable before it's comfortable, right?
Yes.
Before we get used to this. The other thing, you mentioned before, of actually going to your friends and saying, "Gosh, what do you see that I bring? Right?
Mhm.
What am I reliable for?" Do that. That's a great practice. Ask for acknowledgement from the people that you love. Ask for what they see in you. And we are not acknowledged sufficiently enough.
Mm-mm.
In the world, there's a lot more criticism than there is acknowledgement of what's working. And so, at least right now and where we are, we've got to seek it out, and we've got to actually ask. And that's going to be part of building the power and building the boldness within.
I love that. Tammy says, I feel like the crash happens quarterly. It does not, it really does become overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like, sometimes it feels like I'm wearing a mask, smiling on the inside, but dying on the inside. Ooh, yeah. I mean, that's deep, Tammy. But we've been there. Some
Yeah,
of us are still there. Yeah. And
absolutely.
Raven, I'll let you talk about this too to address Tammy's comment. But to me, I feel like that goes back to, your statements that you were making earlier about almost like feeling like you have to be a chameleon and be what everyone else expects you to be, happy, whole, but you're really not in that space. But it's okay, right? Shouldn't it be okay if somebody asks you how's your day? It's not the best today. It really isn't.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on what Tammy just posted?
Absolutely. And, Tammy, yep, I have absolutely been there. And, you know, I think we've all heard fake it till you make it, right? That's what
Hmm.
comes up when I hear smiling on the outside, but dying on the inside. And the thing is that, yeah, there's something to that for some people, right? But what I notice about this is that, yeah, there's probably something to be said, right? You've identified, Tammy, that this is happening quarterly, and I bet you could map it out how it happens every quarter, right? You could probably say, yep. And if you're crashing right now, if that's the place that you're in right now, then take some time, get yourself, back to being, back to you, take some time to source. But then when you're feeling good again, do and have an exercise of actually mapping it out. Yep, this happens, and then I say yes to something else, and then this gets behind, or however it happens for you.
Mm.
Map it out, and then look at, okay, so this is what's going to happen. And so then it becomes predictable. And when it's
Mm.
predictable, you can choose out, right? And I don't know what it is for your particular situation, Tammy, but what I notice that for me, when I'm starting to get overwhelmed in this cycle, it's I've said yes to one thing more than I know that I can fit in my schedule. And when I notice that I've done that, and it happens, I say yes, and I know I can't fit it in, and then I do a bunch of schedule juggling. When I do that, I actually need to not choose to fit it in. I need to go back and say, you know, can we reschedule this? Can we push this 2 months out? Can I have somebody else on my team fill in for me? Anything other than what I would normally do. Yeah, yeah, I see Tammy's comment. Great point. But I do have a problem with saying no sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a
I do
practice
that too.
too. Me too. Yeah,
Yeah,
So practice saying no and starting to get used to what that feels like. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
I think someone said one time, I forgot exactly who, but they was like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Like, no excuses either. Like, let's just start practicing. Tammy, you can practice with me. I'll ask you something, as soon as we get off this call from
No.
the screen. Just practice with me. Like, we have to get to a point where we just say, somebody says, oh, can you help me with this at 5 o'clock today? No. And we don't even owe them an explanation. Just no. And it's taken work. I'm trying to learn how to work on that too. But I think that'll be a good exercise that we can start doing as well.
Well, can I put in something about that?
Please do.
What I notice is that often with a no comes us trying to manage other people's feelings. I don't want them to feel sad, let down, disappointed. Remember that other people get to manage and have their feelings, and that's not on you. Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Wow. Other people get to manage and have their own feelings, and that's not on you. It's not up to us to save everyone else. It's up to us to save ourselves.
That's right.
Wow.
Mhm.
Tammy said, yes, that part. Yeah, that hit home.
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you very much for that, Raven.
Absolutely.
So, can you like recommend, are there like any self-assessments that can help us like discover who we are or our strengths, or are there any like other tests or things like that so we can kind of do some self-discovery, or what would you recommend so we can get back to that place where we know ourselves and we feel more assured?
Yeah, there are so many self-assessments out there. There's the Myers-Briggs is a very popular one. A lot of people do things like 360s in their jobs and whatnot. So, and then there are those just BuzzFeed internet quizzes, right? Like, which Harry
Mm.
Potter character are you, or whatever. And I find that yes, look, Myers Briggs and a lot of those professional ones are super in depth, and I think that that's really supportive, and especially when you're not sure about your tendencies. Um, but a lot of those even more fun quizzes can support you in looking at things from a different angle, right? If you don't want to sit down for a 30-minute Myers-Briggs or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Even taking those little things to, gosh, what are my tendencies? What does this say about it, or something like that? I think can be supportive in understanding how we choose things, how we relate to things, what our tendencies are, what our draws are. So, any of those can be supportive. But I would say, again, being able to sit down with somebody to go through what you know as well, right? Even if it's a Myers Briggs, or even if you don't do any of those and you just go
Hmm.
straight to, hey, let's talk about me,
Yeah.
and what I tend to do. I think that having that other person there to support you in working it out. One of my mentors at one point talked about our minds being like it's like a scary place at night or something like that. Like, don't go there
Ooh.
alone. In
Mm.
it, like in a bad dream or whatever. Uh, and I think about that with all of this self-assessment, that we can really go in there ourselves and get lost in self-assessment after self-assessment after self-assessment. And there's something that's really powerful about having a partner and having somebody that actually you can talk through this with and bounce things off, and have somebody reflect back to you, rather than just going through a um, that scary place or whatever.
That's so true. That's so true. We were speaking out about self-assessments, and it's so funny because I spent almost 10 years in the military, in the Air Force. And at one point, I just started feeling like this doesn't feel like me, like I'm supposed to be here, but I ignored that intuition and that feeling. And I took that Myers Briggs personality assessment, and it is so detailed. It breaks down, as you know, the fields that you probably would be interested in, ones that would be a definite no go. And at the top of the list for me, as you should not be in this field, was the military. And I spent 10 years, but I learned a lot. I'm so grateful that I served. But it just reaffirmed exactly what I was already feeling in my own intuitive self, that, it was just too much structure and I wasn't able to exercise my creativity. So, yeah, see, what were we talking about earlier?
I know.
That little baby. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone. so, so is there such thing as being too empowered?
Oh gosh. If there is, I haven't hit it yet with anybody.
Yeah.
I think that this work of self-empowerment is a lifelong journey. I don't sometimes I like to say that there's no there, right? We're striving for something that is lifelong learning. There is nothing that, it's unlikely that we're going to hit that place that it's like, wow, I'm empowered 100% and nothing can ever shake that up, because life happens, right? There
Yes.
are always different circumstances, different things that come up. Life throws all sorts of things at us, and we have to make choices always. So, I look at this as a lifelong learning, rather than there's a destination that you're going to get to. And sometimes that am I too empowered comes from that idea of ego, right? And I think that also comes from a place of, yeah, I think everybody out there knows some, asshole, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word, right? That is, exploiting power, and that seems to be too empowered. And I would say that there is more work to be done, and likely that's also coming from a place of disempowered, right? There's probably
Hmm.
something in that person that, hopefully we've all got some image of in our heads. There's something that they're trying to not let us see, right? So there is
Mm.
that place of disempowerment there. But to your question, I haven't met the person yet that's actually too empowered. So
Yeah.
I would say everybody keep striving for it. And when you've hit that place of too empowered, let me know.
I know. I love that. So yeah. So my biggest takeaway would be the toxic type of power. That
Yeah.
a lot of people try to portray. With that does not mean that you're too empowered. It's just like you said, you're coming from a place of fear or lack, and then you portray it in a negative, toxic way against the people who work for you. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So this has been phenomenal. I am so grateful, Raven, that you are a coach, a leadership coach, because I can truly tell by your conversation that you are truly gifted, knowledgeable, and passionate about the work that you're doing. And I really want to thank you for taking the time today to speak to our Bloom audience. And I want to ask you before we get ready to wrap up, is there any final message or anything like that that you want to leave with us today?
Well, yeah, thanks. And I have to say also, thank you so much for creating this for me, for everyone out there. This is such a powerful group, and I've been kind of following you for a couple months with the other videos that you've done and the other interviews, and I just have to say, you are such poise and radiance and power and
Oh,
brilliance, and I really acknowledge you for creating this for you and for
oh,
everybody else to really go on this self exploration and empowerment journey together.
thank you.
um, yeah, thank you. And the thing that I would say to everyone is, take a look at what you need. Take a look at what's going to source you and start to really do that reflection work. It's so important. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have conversations with any of you. If you want if you want a discovery session or something like that, or just to say, hey, I was thinking about something that you said, and can you clarify, or can we have a little conversation about that? I'm so happy to be connected to anyone who wants a little bit of extra support or a little bit of extra reflection work. So I'm sure Zakia will put my we're linked on Facebook and everything like
I
that, so you can reach
definitely
out that
will.
way. Yeah.
I
Thank
definitely
you.
will. Yeah, thank you so much again, Raven. Conversations like this are just extremely important, and I thank you all for sharing your vulnerability with us today, your life stories, because I don't know if there's necessarily a place where we can be vulnerable and tell our truth. And to have an expert here in Raven to help guide us through our day. And you know what? And I also want to mention this because years ago, I would be at work and try to pretend as if, or work as if I wasn't a mom, when in fact we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I want all of us ladies to give yourselves a round of applause and really start to celebrate yourself and embrace the fact that we have children, and it does not make us look unprofessional because our children walk into a meeting or we have to leave an hour early to pick our children up from daycare. It is part of life. We bring life into this world, and that is a gift. So, him coming in, I just wanted to share that message with you all. And Raven, again, you are amazing. Thank you so much again for taking the time out. We'll share all your contact information. Thank
Thank you.
you for starting your business and stepping out on faith. That is one of the biggest takeaways for me about embracing your superpower, because you have embraced your superpower. And when you do that, you are able to bless people and share that gift and that light with other people. And to me, that's what life is about. It's about knowing who you are, tapping into that so you can help people and empower others. And I thank you for doing the work, because I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. So I'm so grateful for you, and the work that you're doing full time every day to help others. And we'll definitely continue to share your information. And feel free to come back and join us anytime.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, you take care. Bye, Raven.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We'll see you next week. Say bye bye. Bye.